In the quiet stillness of dawn, when the city still slept, Alexander Mitchell stepped out of his mansion, restless, burdened, lost in thought. He wasn't used to silence, only power, noise, and distance. The Seattle skyline glittered against the fading night, cold and beautiful, much like his life impressive from a distance. Hollow up close, at 35, Alex had everything money could buy, except what mattered most. The tech security empire he'd built from scraps of code had made him a billionaire. But wealth couldn't fill the emptiness that echoed through his marble halls. The scars ran deeper than the world knew. At 17, Alex had stood before his parents, hands trembling, heart racing, and spoken his truth. Their response, silence, then rejection. His father's words still cut through his memories. "No son of mine." That night, he'd found himself on the streets of Seattle with nothing but a backpack and shattered dreams. If not for William Carter, an elderly shelter volunteer who'd seen something worth saving in him, Alex might have become just another statistic. Now, 18 years later, he stood alone in his empty kingdom. The news had arrived yesterday. William Carter was gone. The heart attack took him quickly, they said. But what shattered Alex was learning William had been raising his orphan great-nephew, a baby named Jackson, now only 8 months old with no one to care for him. The authorities planned to place him in the system by week's end. Alex made his decision before sunrise, not as charity, not as publicity, but as repayment of a debt that had defined his life. He would adopt Jackson. The social worker's skepticism was thinly veiled, a single gay man with no parenting experience. But his lawyers and resources overrode concerns. 3 days later, a nursery appeared in the East Wing. But Alex quickly realized good intentions weren't enough. Between board meetings and investor calls, he needed help. James Bennett arrived on a rainy Tuesday, 27, quiet, with eyes that held more stories than he shared. His application mentioned music studies at Juilliard, but not why he'd abandoned a promising career as a pianist. His references were impeccable, his experience with children extensive. When Jackson stopped crying the moment James held him, Alex knew he'd found someone special. What he couldn't know was that James carried scars as deep as his own, or that fate had already connected them through a scholarship fund Alex had established years ago, or that one winter night, a broken heater would change everything between them. Because sometimes the richest hearts don't live in mansions. They sleep quietly on park benches, wrapped in love instead of luxury. And sometimes the families we build matter more than the ones we're born into. If this story has already touched something in you, subscribe to Heart Stories for more journeys of healing, belonging, and the courage to love against all odds. The Seattle winter arrived with unusual ferocity that December. Temperatures plummeted, transforming the elegant grounds of Alex's lakeside estate into a frozen wonderland. Inside, warmth radiated from every corner except within Alex himself. 2 months into fatherhood, he maintained careful distance from Jackson, managing his new role with the same detached efficiency he applied to business acquisitions. He provided everything money could buy while withholding what couldn't be purchased: genuine connection. James had become the heartbeat of the household, his gentle presence transforming cold spaces into something resembling a home. Each morning, he sang to Jackson while preparing his bottles. Each night, he rocked the baby to sleep with lullabies played on the grand piano Alex never touched. The mansion staff whispered about the obvious: James was becoming more than an employee to the little boy. Alex noticed but said nothing, burying himself in work, maintaining careful boundaries. That night, Alex returned later than usual from a foundation gala. The house stood unusually quiet, snow falling and thick curtains outside. Something felt wrong immediately. He called for James, receiving only silence in return. Unease grew as he climbed the stairs to the nursery, finding it empty, the crib untouched. Panic rose in his throat as he searched room after room, calling louder with each empty space. Then he saw it through the window, a figure hunched on a garden bench beneath a Japanese maple, covered in snow. Alex rushed outside without a coat, heart pounding. James sat curled on the bench, his body forming a protective shell around Jackson. Both wrapped in a thick blanket, the baby slept peacefully against James's chest while snow gathered on their huddled form. "What the hell are you doing?" Alex's voice cut through the night, sharp with fear disguised as anger. "Are you trying to kill him?" James looked up, face pale with cold. "Sir, I'm sorry," he whispered, voice trembling. The nursery heater broke. His room dropped to 50 degrees. I called maintenance, called your cell repeatedly. The baby wouldn't stop crying from cold. Each word formed visible puffs in the freezing air. I couldn't let him suffer. The next morning, James collapsed with fever. Alex found himself alone with Jackson, awkwardly attempting feedings and diaper changes. While searching for baby supplies in James's room, he discovered a worn journal. He shouldn't have opened it, yet something compelled him forward. The pages revealed a life-shattered James Bennett, once a celebrated piano prodigy, had lost his partner David in a car accident 3 years ago. Their adopted son followed months later, a rare illness they couldn't afford to treat without insurance. The final entry mentioned a scholarship from the Mitchell LGBT Youth Foundation, Alex's foundation that had saved James from homelessness. When James awoke delirious with fever, he clutched Alex's hand, murmuring, "I couldn't lose another one to cold. Not again." In that moment, Alex saw what wealth had blinded him to. True courage isn't built in boardrooms, but on frozen benches where love outweighs comfort. And sometimes the people who seem most broken are actually the strongest among us. Spring arrived in Seattle, melting winter's grip, but bringing storms of a different kind. The media had discovered Alex Mitchell's unorthodox family arrangement. Headlines ranged from mildly curious to openly hostile, tech billionaire's gay adoption experiment, and who's really raising baby Mitchell. Paparazzi stationed themselves at the estate gates, cameras trained for glimpses of the unusual household. James developed a sixth sense for navigating the chaos, creating shields of normalcy around Jackson. His commitment deepened beyond professional obligation. Each milestone, Jackson's first tooth, his attempts at crawling, the way his eyes followed James around rooms was meticulously documented in a leather-bound baby book. Alex found himself drawn into these moments, his initial distance gradually shrinking. Watching James with growing admiration, the media frenzy attracted unwelcome attention. Alex's parents, silent for 18 years, suddenly reappeared with concerned expressions and thinly veiled agenda. His mother, Catherine, arrived unannounced one afternoon, all designer suits and forced smiles. "We've been thinking, Alexander," she said, perched uncomfortably on an antique chair. "A child needs a proper family structure. Your father and I could help provide that stability." Alex's laugh held no humor. 18 years of silence, and now you're concerned about family. The wound of their rejection still pulsed beneath his success. Where was this parental concern when I was sleeping under bridges? Catherine's eyes darted away to Mom. That was different. We were shocked, unprepared, but this is about an innocent child. Later that evening, James found Alex in his study, staring at rainfall through floor-to-ceiling windows. "They're filing for custodial rights," Alex said without turning, "using my lifestyle and busy schedule as justification." James placed a sleeping Jackson in Alex's arms before speaking. "Perhaps I should leave. My presence complicates things." "You're the only reason he's thriving," Alex replied, surprising himself with the rawness in his voice. Their first Thanksgiving together arrived under clouds of legal threats. The dining room, typically unused, filled with warmth as James prepared a traditional meal. Jackson, now crawling, delighted in the attention of both men. When the baby reached for James with a sound that distinctly resembled Dada, something shifted permanently in Alex's universe. That evening, as Jackson slept between them on the living room sofa, Alex made his decision. "I want you to stay," he said quietly. "Not as staff, as Jackson's co-guardian, as my..." He paused, emotions unfamiliar after years of calculated detachment. "As my partner in raising him. If you want that..." James's eyes widened. "Your parents, the media, your company. None of them sat on a freezing bench all night to keep him warm. Alex interrupted. None of them see him or me the way you do. The transformation wasn't instantaneous. But as their shoulders touched on the sofa, a different kind of family began taking shape, one built not from obligation or tradition, but choice. Because sometimes home isn't where we're born. It's where someone finally sees us clearly and stays despite knowing all our broken parts. Autumn painted Seattle in amber and crimson, marking 1 year since Jackson had entered their lives. The legal battles with Alex's parents had reached uneasy stalemate, their initial momentum stalled by public support for the unconventional family. James and Alex moved in careful orbit around growing feelings neither fully acknowledged, their focus remaining steadfastly on Jackson, now 20 months old, and testing boundaries with wobbly steps and determined babbling. The morning began like any other breakfast preparations. Jackson's favorite stuffed elephant retrieved from behind furniture. Gentle negotiations over appropriate breakfast foods. Alex suggested an afternoon at Washington Park Arboretum, away from reporters and lawyers. Just the three of them beneath autumn leaves. A rare, perfect day until it wasn't. James turned away for seconds to retrieve Jackson's dropped sippy cup. The protest group had chosen that moment to approach, signs condemning immoral families and confused children. In the chaos of shouting and security response, no one immediately noticed Jackson's absence. One moment, he was playing near the Japanese maples. The next, gone. The following 48 hours destroyed all pretense of emotional distance. Police combed the park while news helicopters circled overhead. Alex, always composed, shattered completely, his public persona crumbling before cameras he no longer cared about. James worked with methodical desperation, retracing steps, organizing volunteer searches, refusing sleep. They found Jackson on the third morning, left at a suburban church with a handwritten note, "This child deserves normal parents." Physically unharmed, but deeply traumatized. He screamed at the touch of police officers and social workers. Only when James reached for him did the boy stop trembling, tiny arms wrapping desperately around his neck, face buried against his shoulder. Alex's parents arrived at the hospital with their attorney, faces grim with righteous determination. "This is exactly what we feared," his father declared. "Your lifestyle has endangered this child. We've filed emergency custody papers." The courtroom became a battlefield over definitions of family. Character witnesses testified about Alex's business acumen and philanthropy. Experts debated statistical outcomes for children in same-sex households. Throughout, James sat quietly, the last scheduled witness, watching Jackson through the nursery window during recesses. When finally called forward, James spoke without prepared statements. "I was orphaned at 12, he began, surprising even Alex with history never shared. "I know what it means to be unwanted, to wonder why blood ties weren't enough." His voice strengthened. "Jackson has never wondered. He falls asleep every night knowing he's cherished. Not because of obligation, but because two people chose him above everything else." The judge asked why James remained so committed to a situation fraught with complications. James looked directly at Alex for the first time that day. "Because I love them both. We're already a family. The papers just haven't caught up to reality yet." In the silence that followed, Alex realized the truth he'd been avoiding. This wasn't about duty or repaying old debts anymore. Somewhere between midnight feedings and park adventures, between legal briefs and piano lullabies, he'd found what William Carter had tried teaching him years ago: family isn't about perfect circumstances. It's about showing up completely for the people who matter, especially when the world stands against you. 10 years transformed their lives in ways none could have predicted. Jackson Mitchell Bennett, now 11 and startlingly articulate, stood before his elementary school graduation audience, index cards clutched in confident hands. "Family," he began, "doesn't always arrive the way we expect." His eyes found his father's in the crowded auditorium. Alex, finally comfortable without perfectly knotted ties, and James, whose music had returned, fingers permanently marked with piano ink and children's paint. The legal victory against Alex's parents had reshaped more than custody arrangements. It became precedent in similar cases across 3 states. The beginning of the Mitchell-Bennett Foundation for Family Equality, their Seattle mansion, once cold with emptiness, now bustled with life additional adopted siblings for Jackson. Community gatherings, holiday celebrations that drew chosen family from across the country. Every year on the anniversary of that winter night, they visited the garden bench, now preserved under protective glass. Jackson knew the story by heart, how James had sat freezing through the night, how that single act of protection had changed everything. The bench remained their touchstone, tangible proof that love didn't require perfect circumstances to transform lives. Catherine Mitchell arrived unannounced one Christmas morning, 7 years after the court battle ended. Older, without her husband. He's still not ready. She explained she stood awkwardly on their doorstep, holding wrapped packages and years of regret. When Jackson called her grandma without prompting, something permanent healed in Alex's expression. In a national television interview commemorating their foundation's work, Jackson, poised beyond his years, addressed the camera directly. People ask what it's like having 2 dads. I always say I'm not an expert on what I'm missing, only on what I have. His smile reflected both fathers' influence. And what I have is double the bad jokes, double the homework help, and double the love. That math works out pretty well for me. The garden bench featured prominently in the foundation's logo, with words now engraved in its wooden slats. True love doesn't require luxury mansions, it shines brightest on park benches in winter cold. From that one night of sacrifice grew thousands of families supported. Legislation changed, minds opened to broader definitions of belonging. James still played piano every evening. His abandoned career transformed into nightly concerts for whoever gathered in their living room. Alex still ran his company, but board meetings now accommodated school pickups and soccer practices. Their hands, often intertwined when they thought no one noticed, bore matching bands, simple, understated, perfectly them. Have you ever found family in unexpected places? Has someone's sacrifice changed your life's direction completely? Share your story in the comments below. Because sometimes the most powerful truth isn't that families come in different forms, it's that the best families are built choice by choice, sacrifice by sacrifice, love by love. Subscribe to Heart Stories for more journeys that remind us all sometimes our greatest blessings arrive on the coldest nights, wrapped not in luxury, but in arms strong enough to protect what matters most.